Hello. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I am very passionate about today's topic. So passionate, in fact, that I actually wrote a little thing on my personal Facebook. Was it Sunday? Was I nerding out on Sunday? I am a real nerd for psychology. I've never studied in college, but the more I do business, the more I realize it's kind of the same thing. And sales psychology is exceptionally fascinating to me. Why people make the buying decisions that they make. And so I have been doing all the readings. And when I do like deep study and research, I pull from lots and lots of different sources. And I have three sources that I'm going to share with you today that talk about buying psychology, and they just go together so beautifully that it's going to tell a story. So I'm going to start at the beginning. Where are my notes? Jesus, that would be bad. Here they are. Thank you. Sarah came very prepared today. I'm wearing my new blue glasses today, which kind of match my hair. Apparently when you get old and you start to buy reading glasses, you're going to lose them a lot. And so if you go on Amazon, you can just buy like a box of 6 of them for like $14. And then you get a whole bunch of different fun colors. So this is the one that I'm wearing today. Okay. On to talking about the psychology of sales or the psychology of buying decisions. There are scientifically 2 sides to the brain. Now, they'll always come out with more, right? But we're going to talk about the main 2. One would be the conscious, and one would be the subconscious part of the brain. Now, the conscious part of your brain is the rational side of your brain. Now, the subconscious part of your brain is the emotional side of your brain. So you have logic and you have emotions, you have conscious and you have subconscious. Now, both of these parts of your brains are impacting the decisions that you make in any given Sunday, right? There's this book called Designing the Mind. Highly recommend. It's a very easy read. It's actually kind of nice because the parts that you would highlight, and I read all my books with a highlighter, doesn't everybody? He's already bolded. So it's by Ryan Bush. I could run and grab the book. I had it. I was carrying it around, and now I don't have it. Ryan A. Bush wrote the book Designing the Mind, and it talks about psychotecture. He made that word up. He even admits it. But he talks about there being a connection or a place where your values meet your beliefs. And the values are your introspection based internal inputs. So values are your subconscious decisions that you've decided to make based on your life experience and the associations that you've created with things. Then you have your beliefs, which is around rationality. That's your logic. Those are the things you learned. Those are the like, be rational. That's like the mind, right? Where they meet, and he draws a little graph in his book. Where they meet is wisdom. That's what he calls it. Wisdom. Where your logic and your emotional brain play together best. He calls it wisdom. Now we're going to switch to a different book altogether. This Ninja Selling, Larry Kendall. He talks about there being balanced brain decisions. Balanced brain decisions are what he calls the happiest type of decisions. And it's where your conscious or your analytical brain is the most powerful. And your conscious brain is the most powerful. And I want you to hear this because this is impactful. If you've been lost up until this point, there's real tangible takeaways here. The conscious brain operates best with 3 to 5 points of consideration. Have you ever heard about analysis paralysis? It's one of the reasons, like when I create a bar menu, I suggest, keeping it as short as possible because otherwise the lines get long because it's like you belly up to the bar and you're like, geez, what do we have? There's so many options. And suddenly people are kind of paralyzed by all the options. Analysis paralysis. A well-functioning logic brain does best with making decisions if there are only between 3 and 5 options. Anything more than 9 and it freezes. Like there's just too many variables for the human brain to consider when trying to make a decision. Anything between 5 and 9 is going to be arduous. It's going to take time. It's going to be a slower decision making process. So, what we want in our efforts to help people make decisions with a happy brain is to keep their options between 3 and 5. So, if you present people with a ton of pricing options, or here are all the different ways that you can work with us, and there are more than 5, chances are they're going to pick someone else, or it's going to be arduous to work with you. If you attended the webinar that we did with Elizabeth Pressure from Height Digital a couple weeks ago, she said the famous quote, a confused mind says no. This is more evidence towards that concept. And we want to not confuse people, ideally, during buying decisions, right? And so 3 to 5 at max buying decisions in any given encounter. That doesn't mean you can't have other options. It just means when presenting things to people, you really should try and whittle it down to 3 to 5 if you want to make that process a little bit easier. Okay. The emotional brain, or the subconscious brain, and this is fascinating to me, has no limit to the amount of information it can process. It could tell you how many blades of grass are on the ground outside. However, it can't speak to you like your logic brain does. Although I hear some people don't have an internal dialogue, which is totally fine. You understand what I'm saying. Your logic brain is like A plus B equals C. It can tell a story. Your subconscious brain is taking in all of the other things that your logic brain may not have the capacity for, and is making a decision for you, or is making a decision based on the information it has, but it can't speak to you. It can only give you cues through your body. This is fascinating. So if like go with your gut, that's essentially saying your bodily sensations are talking to you, utilizing the ability to process billions of data points. Look it up. The subconscious brain can process billions of data points, and your conscious brain may not even know what it's like. And there's a great book on this called The Gift of Fear. Highly recommend. And it talks of the dude who wrote it is like the person that the Supreme Court and the CIA go to keep really important people safe. And he talks about the subconscious brain being able to process way more information. So if you're like in the elevator with a guy who makes you feel creepy, and your logic brain is like, he's fine, he's harmless, and your subconscious brain is like, something's off, something's off. They've done studies on this, and something bad happens, and then they talk to him later, and there's like a whole bunch of cues that their logic brain didn't pick up on, but their subconscious brain did. So when it comes to buying decisions, this is why it's important for you. When you are nurturing someone through from idea, this is a cool mobile bar, to buying, you want to create a client experience that is super consistent, easy to navigate, easy to understand, and is super supportive of getting them the information that they want and need in a context that they can utilize it. Because if for whatever reason you do not do this, maybe you show up differently one place than the next place, or you have information here that doesn't agree with information here, even if their logic brain or their conscious brain doesn't pick up on it, their subconscious brain might. And so it might just give them a little bit of an uneasy feeling about going with you, and they won't even be able to enunciate why. It's because their subconscious brain is saying something feels off here, even if their conscious brain is like, well, everything seems to check, right? So Ninja Selling talks about the emotional and analytical brain being most comfortable with 3 to 5 options, and the fact that the emotional brain focuses more on content versus context, and is picking up on everything: body language, the tone of voice, the copy on your website, all the things. Okay. So we have to think about both of those things when we're working through our nurture funnel or a sales funnel, our marketing, our presentation. It's one of the reasons why branding is so important, is so you can create established brands so that people know and have a consistent pattern when they see you. Okay. So, but we're not done yet, because my favorite way of thinking about this is the way that Scott Oldford was teaching this concept. He doesn't teach it this way anymore. He actually has added a fourth concept to it, and he's changed a little bit, but I'm clinging to the original concept because I thought it was brilliant. And maybe I should email him and let him know why I thought it was brilliant, because he changed it. It's still fine. Anyways, he has this 3 states of or levels of consciousness. Now, I want to clarify. I personally do not believe these are levels. These are states. He calls them levels that you can like move through. I do not believe you can. I don't believe you can move through these states. Every buyer is going to approach your business in one of 3 buying states. You are going to approach everything that you ever do in life in one of these 3 states. You're never the same one. Well, I guess you can be the same one, but you're not always the same one. So you don't show up one way in all contexts. You might show up one way in one context and a different way in a different context. These are the 3 states of buying states. The first is willful. The willful buyer uses their analytical mind primarily. These people are asking all the questions. They're using their logic brain to make this decision. So even if their gut is kind of telling them this feels a little wonky, their brain is saying this is a good idea or this is a bad idea. Their gut might be like, oh my God, I'm so excited. But they're like, not checking this box, not checking this box, not checking this box. Then this is a no. These are the people that drop into your inbox and have all the questions. How many napkins are you bringing? What is the uniform for your clients or for your bartenders? What time are you arriving? These are willful buyers, and they are willful because they seek information because they're uncomfortable with the decision. So they know that they need to solve this problem. They're not really fully comfortable with you being the right solution. So they're going to ask a bunch of questions to try and make sure that it's the right decision. Willful people use their logic side of their brain. Maybe not in all cases, but in your buying case. The next one is the intellectual buyer. No, I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to go right to the intuitive. The intuitive buyers are the ones that we love because they're like, how to take my credit card. They're like, I saw you on Instagram. I love your bar. I love the cocktails. I love it. I love it. I love it. Take my card. How can I reserve my date? We love these people. However, these people, the intuitive buyers, oftentimes don't ask enough questions and they're purely emotionally driven. So they're the ones that are acting on impulse. They are excited about something, but maybe they haven't even checked, does the venue allow you as a mobile bar at their particular venue? All I know is they saw you, they loved you, they had to have you. These are intuitive buyers, and we love these buyers. But they are often they're not using a balanced brain to make those decisions, right? Because a balanced brain, a happy decision is going to balance both logic and emotion. Those that can do that, those that are making the decisions with both their logic and their emotional brain, those are in what Scott Oldford calls intellectual buyers. Those are the people that are going to ask a few questions. They need the gist of things, right? They don't need to know how many napkins or cups you're bringing, which that's a thing people have asked before. How many cups are you bringing? That's a willful buyer. They're asking the gist of things. Do you need anything from me? Is there anything I should be asking that I haven't asked? How many bartenders are you going to bring? And do you think that's a sufficient number of bartenders for the number of people that we're having? That sort of thing. They're also going to exude a little bit of excitement about, I can't wait to have you guys there. You guys look great. I'm really excited about the experience. These are intellectual buyers, and they're using a balanced brain to make those decisions. Your job is to, 1, understand that everyone is coming at you with one of those 3 states, and 2, how to address their concerns so that you can make them into a client, right? So if you get a willful buyer up in your inbox, your first instinct might be to, no, I don't want this problem client. They're coming to you, remind yourself, they're coming to you with as a willful buyer in this state because they don't have enough information to make their logic brain feel comfortable about making the decision. So your job on the sales side of things is to make them comfortable with their logic brain, comfortable with selecting you. And you do that best by providing them with confident answers to the questions that they have. Now, if they ask you how many cups you're bringing and you're like, that's annoying, I'm not going to tell you that. Obviously, that willful buyer is not going to book you. However, if you come up with something that makes you comfortable and them comfortable in that, well, we generally bring about 1 cup per person per hour, but we also bring a couple extras just in case there are unforeseen circumstances or something like that. They can do the math if they want, but mainly they just wanted to know that you had an answer and a formula for making that decision, right? They were just double checking to make sure there was logic involved here. That will make a willful buyer happy. So if you meet a willful buyer and you can answer their questions, you have a greater chance of booking them than probably someone else, because you're going to make the logic side of their brain comfortable. If you meet an intuitive buyer, again, their emotional brain is the part of the brain that's making that decision. Long term, you want them to be comfortable with their decision. So even though they're like, take my card, you might need to slow them down a little bit to get them into the intellectual buyer state. So ask them, hey, does your venue allow us to work there if you don't know? Or here are some questions that oftentimes people ask us. I just want to make sure that I give you those answers so that you're comfortable with this engagement. So for example, let me walk you through kind of our scope of work. We don't serve shots. We do card people. We don't take trash, all of those things. They might be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, hold on. No, shots are a deal breaker for me, right? And so you get to avoid that situation where you're like signed and paid. And now we're talking about, you get to, slow them down a little bit, make sure that a lot of these things are addressed, because these are the people that also aren't going to read your contract because they're just excited. They're just emotional about the situation. And so you get to slow them down a little bit so that by the end of it, they feel good, like they're still excited about it, but also they have all the information and you have the information too. So I hope this is helpful, but the whole purpose of me sharing this with you is that your marketing and messaging should address and meet each of these types of people where they're at. You can't move, in my opinion, you can't move a willful buyer outside the willful state without qualming their fears. And you can't bring an intuitive buyer out of their state unless you can slow them down a little bit. But ultimately, we want to make sure that our process is supportive of everybody and yourself so that you get the right fit into and through the buying process, and not just the person who's willing to throw the money at you the fastest. So that's psychology, buyer psychology, where people come from, how they use their different parts of their brains to make buying decisions. And now you are a more enriched entrepreneur and marketer for knowing that. And the 2 books that talk about this, Designing the Mind by Ryan A. Bush, and Ninja Selling addresses it in there as well. And that one is by Larry Kendall. And then Scott Oldford, who is a entrepreneurial coach in the online space. So he doesn't specifically work with service providers or hospitality or mobile bars, but he coaches like online entrepreneurs, coaches, that sort of thing. And he is a bit of a student of psychology as well. So I hope that was helpful. And that's the lesson for today. Actually, try and hit between 15 and 20 minutes on the lesson. And it's 2:19. So we have about 10 minutes. If people have general questions, we'll move into the general Q&A section of this weekly live. It's surprisingly quiet in the comment section today. So feel free to drop some emojis in there if you're here. I see a bunch of you here, so I'll take a drink while I wait. I did my hair for y'all today. Usually it's back in a ponytail, looking like I just got back from a run, which I usually have not. Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you just joined and you missed the whole lesson, it's a good one. I think so. I was really excited about this. I talked really fast. Oh, Claudia, you got the Ninja book. You're also a real estate agent, right? So it is perfect for you. You're going to love it. It's going to be so valuable in both your businesses. Yay. I'm glad you thought it was good insight. Any general questions about the industry, or how do you gear your marketing on your website or social media to attract all three types of buyers? Oh, this is a great question, Courtney. Thank you for asking this. Okay. So imagine you have a sales page. Okay. If I'm an intuitive buyer and like it's your homepage or something, I don't even want to scroll to get a hold of you. So make sure that your page, without anyone having to touch it or scroll, has like a get a quote, contact us now, whatever it is that you have. Ideally, they would be like, call us, right? Because intuitive buyers, they are ready. They are emotionally driven and they found you, they love you, they want you. And so, but above the fold, you want to make sure there's some way for them to get a hold of you as soon as possible. For the willful buyer, they're going to want all the information. So you'll want a fax page. You'll want a things people love most about us. Here are different bars. Have a services page. They're willing to click around to find the information that they need because they have tons of questions. And so we want to make it easy for them to get answers to those questions, including pricing. Now, we don't need full on pricing, but starting pricing is really, at least starting pricing is helpful here. And then the intellectual buyer is going to utilize both of those in varying degrees, depending on what kind of questions they have or where they are in the scale of willful to intuitive. And so having buttons throughout the page, like book us now, book us now, book us now, after every single kind of section, some way to engage. That's the way that you foster the progress of an intellectual buyer, is that you don't make them, you give them the space to learn about you through your content, but you don't make them search for how to take the next steps. And that's, you have buttons kind of periodically throughout your homepage. It's a great question. You bought it for real estate and you're like, wow, if Sarah's reading it, I have to read it. I am, anybody who's been in my ecosphere in the last 2.5 weeks is over me talking about that book, but it is, I think it has some really, really great takeaways. What else? I'll just blab. We just had our first committee meeting for the conference this year. And when I tell you, that is an amazing committee. I'm so excited. They already have amazing ideas. They're already talking about sponsorships and changing up the format and speakers. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We're just in the beginning stages though. So I don't have details as to dates or location or anything, but that is coming. And for those just joining, this is the open Q&A section. So if you have any questions about business, mobile buyer, today we're talking about psychology. So let me know, just drop them in. We have another 7 minutes or so. We'll cut out early if nobody has any questions, but I'm here. So it would be lovely to assist. And if you have no questions, then drop what you're reading. Paul usually asks me what I'm reading. I'm ready for kind of the next great book. So not that I have a shortage of books to get to, but I'm always in the market for new books. I just envision the warrior typing out questions. Nothing else. Oh, another good one. How many drinks per person per hour do you do for your pricing around? And about how much money you base your price around per drink per money, if that makes sense. Oh, Courtney. I talk about this a lot in the academy. Pricing is one of my love languages. So I have got this down to a science. It really It depends on the client as to what I calculate per person per hour for drinks. Now, I will mention that unless you have a liquor license, it's not overly helpful for you to do a per price per hour per or price per hour per person for drinks. I can and I do recommend doing price per person per hour for packages such as a signature cocktail package, a basic mixer package, or a premium mixer package. That all should be driven based on math. And I know you're like, no shit, Sarah. That's why I asked the question. Like, what's the math you're using? So I use a very personalized formula for this, in that oftentimes people fail to include all the costs associated with their business when they create their pricing. So when I run my clients through this pricing exercise, 99% of them is like, oh my God, I need to like double my pricing. I wasn't factoring in all the overhead of running the business, the time that it, requires to run the business, the fuel that I'm using to run the business, the utilities, all the other things. So when I calculate pricing for people, I'm not just looking at, well, a cup costs this and a napkin costs this and a straw costs this, and therefore we should, double the price, and then here it is. It encompasses everything that it costs to run this business. Because if you're not covering the costs of running your business, then it's not a business. You're basically just running a hobby. So I'm wondering if I should run another pricing challenge. I think it's been like 6 months since I've run a pricing challenge. And those are usually a multi-day, 1 hour a day. We walk through the kind of concept, and then it's last time it was 4 days, but I think we could probably do it in 3 days. By the end of it, you've got your pricing. And I'm wondering if maybe we should, let me take that note. Okay. Got that written down. Yay. Okay. Yeah. Pricing challenge. I try and make them super affordable. If I was to do it for you, those sessions are like $900. But we try and do the challenges. They're free for any of the Academy members. So if you're in the Academy already, challenges are free. And then we try and keep them under $100 for people that are not members of the Academy. Claudia, you said you had another question. Come on, give it to me. How do you limit ghosting? I love this. One, I'm annoying as fuck. Yeah. So I read a lot. You guys know this. And almost every person that I listen to about sales is like, you stay on them until they tell you to stop contacting you. And you don't do it in a way that's like a chihuahua on your ankle. You do it in a helpful, supportive, nurturing way. In that, if it's not hard to be like, sorry, we went another direction. That's it. That's all you're looking for is a response, right? And so if ask for phone numbers, that's sometimes helpful as long as you're going to use it. So when you get the contact information, ask for a phone number. Some people will lie to you. I'm one of those people. If it's a SaaS product and you ask for my phone number, I don't want to hear about your SaaS product. I want to actually demo your SaaS product. So you're getting my fake phone number there. But for most people, if it's like someone I work with, or like a handyman or another local business, I'm going to give them my real number if they ask for it. And so reaching out via phone is more personal. It creates an actual connection. Otherwise, make sure that you're just following up with value and a atmosphere of like, hey, I'm trying to support you. You have a need here. I can support you here. Maybe here's a cocktail list or a recipe, until people are like, take me off your list. I'm not offended by that, because the minute you unsubscribe for me, or you're like, take me off your list, I'm like, cool. I know that you're not for me and I'm not for you. And now we don't have to hang anymore. But if they drop, in my inbox and they ask for a lead, I'm going to continue to follow up with you consistently and excitedly for 21 days, 21 to 28 days, depending on depending on the automation you fall into. But after that, I said a wishing you well email. And basically I'm like, hey, it doesn't look like you need support here any longer. So I'm going to, archive this inquiry. And if you need help in the future, just let me know. And then they don't have to ghost me anymore because they're out of my lead funnel. So Another question. I charge a per person charge for all clients, but I'm getting more and more corporate clients who expect an hourly rate for services. How do I find a way to properly charge through an hourly structure? Well, Claudia, I don't love per person service rates, and then one of the reasons why is the one that you just shared, and that is if you have a per person rate with a minimum of 4 hours, you've alienated corporate because corporate oftentimes only wants 2 hours. And so what you've done is basically say you need to pay this rate. And I know why you do it. You do it because you're like, I have a minimum and it's not worth it to me to go on site for less than this amount of money. They don't mind minimums. They don't want to pay for something they don't feel like they're getting. And so if you have a minimum of 4 hours and they only need 2 hours, even if you would change chart, like if you would charge the same amount based on 2 or 4 hours, they feel like they're not getting something they're supposed to, or they're paying more for what they're getting. That feels hard. But yeah, if you have a clarifying context there, let me know. Yeah, you're welcome around the limit or the ghosting conversation. Take a drink while I'm waiting for Claudia. The sticker exchange for 2023 is coming up. So if you haven't purchased your mobile bar stickers for the year of 2023, now's the time. I think we're doing the actual exchange in April when you can sign up for the exchange. And for those who don't know what that is, it's when mobile bars from around the country or world, we've had people participate in other countries as well. They sign up, and then it's kind of like, I don't know, do you ever do like the pen pal thing? I don't know. Back when we were little, and it's like you send to like 6 people. Anyways, we then send stickers to everybody. And last year we capped it at 50, but we had a lot of people that were really upset that they didn't get to participate. So we might do more this year. And it usually takes people about 3 months to actually get all the stickers out, but it's so much fun. It's so much fun. 2 charges: hourly bartender plus the per guest charge for all consumables. We do not include liquor. 2 charges: hourly bartender plus the per guest charge for all consumables. So you're already charging hourly? Perhaps you could clarify further. They're saying they want things to be hourly for the consumables, and you're doing per guest per consumables. My recommendation for anything is that you charge the way that you pay for them. And so consumables, you will pay more for more hours and less for less hours. So I recommend charging per person per hour for consumables. Per hour for bartender makes total sense because you're paying bartenders per hour. So I always recommend charging the way that you pay for things. I hope that helps. Well, I'm going to hop off, Claudia, but if you want to continue making comments, I will reply to them within the comment section. And I hope everybody enjoyed that. We're going to do it again next week. Nope, we're not. I lied. I'm on vacation next week. So we're going to do it again the next week, the week after that. Yeah, we could talk for hours, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do that someday. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your week.